Welcome everyone to the Red Zone. Today I'll be demoing a data resolution workflow change and improvement. It was part of version 15.01. Essentially, users in the past prior to this change, if they were using the DAG switcher, the data access group switcher, they weren't able to see any queries if they were using the data resolution workflow. With this new change now, users can see those changes while using the DAG switcher. Prior to getting started with this demo, I'd kind of like to go over some terminology, especially if there's anyone viewing that's not aware of the data resolution workflow. Essentially, the data resolution workflow is going to be a tool that the REDCap uses where you can open up any queries, such as a monitor can open up queries or conduct an audit, or it could be just the research manager. And it'll be either the coordinator or program coordinator that'll go and respond to those queries. It's something that's been instilled in REDCap, I believe, since 2013. With DAG switcher, data access group switcher, it's essentially going to be a user. You can see the screen here. It's going to be a user that has access to multiple sites. It could be more than two, but for the sake of this demo, we're just going to keep two, Tucson and California. And then the user that's going to have access to multiple sites will be Tanya for this demonstration. So that's something, the part of those terminologies from that. Now, to get started with kind of just to start prior to showing you this big change, data resolution workflow, how you set this up if, again, someone that's watching this or joins it never has done so. The first thing you want to do is go to your user rights. Again, Tanya, thank you, but she'll be the one that'll be the clinical research coordinator. So you're going to want to click on the role. When you go to this data resolution workflow here, it gives you this drop down, some information. So if you'd like at the end of this, feel free to read it and I'll explain it further so you don't have to. But there's multiple options you can when it goes to giving them the rights. If you give them no access, they won't be able to see the data quality tool, which we'll go into further. You have view only, open queries only, respond only to open queries, open and respond to queries. We're going to give Tanya the maximum access, which is going to be open, close, and respond to queries. Again, if they don't have these proper user rights, they're not going to be able to use the data resolution workflow. Second thing you're going to want to do when setting this up, you go into your project setup, additional customizations. If you scroll down, you're going to see this here, enable the field comment log or data resolution. By default, it always gets set as field comment log. So you're just going to want to change this drop down to data resolution workflow. Kind of like I showed on the user rights, it gives you this information. There's a video that was, I believe, back in 2013 with this data resolution workflow. Believe it or not, since it is a little outdated, it's still current. Not much has changed, but this video will kind of walk you through the setup, kind of like I just mentioned. And again, I will go through this, but it really does have some good information. Terry also did a demo on this back in 2020 on the data resolution workflow, which I'll provide some videos at the end of this just for some references. So we've set this up, we've set it up. Another functionality you can use when using the data resolution workflow is going to be the missing data codes. It's essentially going to be something that you can set up when there's missing data values and a reasoning to why. When you've selected them, so for my presentation, I'm going to do NA, not applicable, UNK, unknown. It's going to mark those fields with that icon with an M. And it'll be able to have you drop down, select those. And again, I'll show that to you further, but this is something that's optional that you can set it up. So again, for this, we will do. I've also enabled an external module called Data Resolution Workflow Tweaks, which Manny did do a demo. Again, I'll provide that. And in order to enable that with any external module, you go to External Modules, click Manage, enable a module. You'll search it. And again, for this one, it's called Data Resolution Workflow Tweaks. I'd already have enabled it. It's here. The main functionality we're going to do and I'll show that further, but it adds a button where you can verify values, especially if you've used the data resolution workflow and you're verifying those. If you have a very complex fields or matrix fields or anything that has a lot of fields, it can be very tedious to go through. So the neat thing of this is you'll have a verified all button where it can go through it. The only caveat with that is, users should always check those fields and information and ensure it's correct prior to verifying all those. So we've enabled that. Now with DAG switchers, since we are on the external modules section, I also enabled an external module. And again, also Manny did create a demo on this AutoDAG external module. We're going to enable a module called AutoDAG. Go in here. AutoDAG. So the neat thing about this external module, you'll essentially designate a field. I'm going to be using clinic site just like Manny did in his demo, where you pretty much are going to be able to enable the AutoDAG. When you set this up, though, I highly recommend just to use the text field. As you'll see in Manny's demo, he does go with a radio or multiple choice, but it doesn't currently work that well. It works best like that because it actually will work out when you have a survey and also if you're doing any data entry fields. This auto DAG is going to work for both of those. So those are just a couple tips when you're setting up your DAG switcher and your data resolution workflow. And then just to kind of reiterate with the DAGs, we've already have set up our data access groups, California and Tucson. Tanya has been enabled to both sites. Now, once you've set that up, you're going to see this data quality table here. You can set up some data quality roles, which will actually run some values. If you'd like, you can generate reports. But if you click on this tab here, resolved issues, you're going to see Tucson has 2 queries, California has 2. There's multiple ways you can view your any queries they may have, but the neat thing about them, when you click on a comment, it gives you a log as far as the date, the time, the user, what were their comments, what were the outcomes of those. Now, with this new change, if we're going to switch over to Tanya, one thing to note though, other users won't have this right to view the project as somebody else. Since I am an admin, I do have this capability. So we're going to view this as Tanya. So as we can see here, she's currently set up right now viewing for California. As we generally saw in the past, it was set up for 4. Now that she's in California with this new change and improvement, now we're privy to those 2. Now, if we switch over to Tucson, and again, if you have multiple sites, you'll be able to see Flagstaff, Phoenix, or whatever may be your site may be using. So we're going to switch over to that. 5 and 8 were records for California, just a friendly reminder. So now that we've switched over to Tucson, we can see record 1 and 4. Same thing applies with this. She would be able to go again. She is set up as a DAG switcher, but the user can go in, view the site, what the monitor or the clinical research manager put in for what those sites were. Now, if we go into our record status dashboard, just to kind of go over those blank values and what entails into that, we're going to switch back to California. We go into record 8. I'm going to click on edit. And now this did have an unknown, but if you recall with our missing data values, we did set up unknown and the other one, not applicable. So as you can see for this one, this is where you can click on if you are missing those data values. So that way, if there's any blank or missing data values, it will generate that. So we're going to go ahead and change that. If you look here at the bottom, it does show this data resolution workflow. That's where that external module comes into. So essentially with these checkboxes, what they indicate is that the field and values have been verified. You can still though de-verify it, and I'll kind of just show not correct. We'll put a comment in there. We're going to de-verify it, and you're going to see the icon's going to completely change, meaning that it hasn't been verified. You can open it up, and again, you can assign it to a user. We can open a query here. I want to assign it to Tanya, just not to ping her, but just put in some text in there. But now we're going to reopen it, and we can look at the icon. You're going to have an exclamation point, meaning that this does need some attention. I set this one up as well as a test, but you can see that it was de-verified, that it was corrected. And that essentially will kind of give you those functionalities with that. And if we look at this one here, again, this is something that we've kind of demoed out. So I did open up a query asking why is this information missing? Tanya went in as herself, she verified it. And just for the sake of the demo, we just said, no, this information's not correct. We opened it and closed it. One thing that's also neat about this is that you do have an upload files section where you can go ahead and upload if something that's in your EDC or if you're going into the MMR or you want to upload a field just as a supporting document, you do have that option. You just want to select reasoning. It is required. So data missing, or you can use other, and you'll still have to put in a comment, just like if you would into any EDC program, but you could just put confirm, respond to the query. And as we can see, that's closed it out. But those are the biggest changes with this data resolution workflow. Um, One thing, as I mentioned, I did want to kind of provide some videos that were done in the past. Put them in the chat. But those links there, as I mentioned, Terry did do a demo on the data resolution workflow. I've watched them and they're really good. They're really informative, as well as those external modules. Now, for users that are watching this on YouTube, obviously they don't have access to the chat. But if you go to our site, cb2.uhs.arizona.edu, in this tab here, educational/training, if you go to REDCap video training, you're going to be able to find those same and just searching them. So one of them that, again, we did on this was the data resolution workflow. The other one was the AutoDAGs. But you'll be able to see all of our videos, as we mentioned. Manny does an amazing job where he uploads those them to YouTube. But again, these are just going to redirect you to our YouTube channel. But those are just good resources when it comes to those information. I feel like they did a way better job than I could explain. And with that, that concludes the demo. Again, it was something small, but it's just nice that now users can go into different sites. And the same thing kind of applies here if they were to switch over to Tucson. The complete view is going to completely change. So it's something that's neat that it now works with DAG switchers if they are using the data resolution. One thing actually I quickly forgot to mention, it does give you some really neat reports in this resolution metrics. I know that the university typically has a contract with sponsors of 5 business days to open or close those queries. So it gives you some metrics of how long it takes, your site or your project to respond to those queries, how many you have open, close. It gives you all of this information. So if you like graphs and everything, it really does give you different ways. You can see it as a pie chart, bar graph, really up to you and your preference. But with that, do you guys have any questions?
Doesn't sound like any questions, and this is really, really well done, George. So thank you. Um, and
Thank you.
it's neat to see these new additions to the functionality of RedCap. Uh, I'm just reading the chat things. Um, so this is where I enjoy having someone like George who has a solid coordinator experience demo something like this, because my take on this was always that data resolution workflow I think is really cool and especially great for a project where you're going to have a monitor come in and you're going to have some auditing get done, and it's so powerful and there's so much you do with it, but I never get a sense that a standard project uses it very often, if at all. Uh, Even though if you have a large project, I think it's really a useful tool to change. And I didn't see, did you show how to change a project so that it's using data resolution workflow, George?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to make sure that it was clear in the video how you turn on data resolution workflow. But anyway, um, it was nice that you added those links to our YouTubes that we've done before. Um, I hope that they're helpful if anybody needs them, but this was a great presentation, George, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. No, and you guys did a really good job on yours. I used, like I said, I did use those as a reference with this, and it was kind of neat seeing looking at your demo, it was January 23rd of 2020, and not much has changed. And then the video that they provide when you set this up, I believe it was Rob that created it back in 2013. And like I said, not much has changed, but like you said, just to echo it, it is a powerful tool, especially with the graphs and everything to kind of show you what your site is doing and how they're providing those numbers. It's definitely something that would be really powerful.
Right, I agree.